concept or something like that, and then work the details out a little bit later. But yeah, I think there was, they weren't quite sure, how they might want to approach some of that.
Are you tasked with also then helping us start a system, or are you just tasked with, here's your options and I'm out?
No, not quite that much. I will have a lot of that, things put in place, because there will be a lot of things that'll have to happen logistically. It's gonna be a different service, so there needs to be an operational plan. I think I can talk the state out of doing a feasibility study, but things like, because that's a long process too. But I think we can get, it's here, we're just changing it potentially. Excuse me. Yes, one of the things that we always do is, we do basically the study, write the recommendations, and provide as much detail and information so that if you should be able to pick it up and start doing things. We always do offer implementation after the fact, though, where we can come. I can make 2 phone calls where you might spend half the day on the phone trying to get something done with the state. Just because of the relationships that I have there and the things that I know of how you can kind of sidestep a few things. But there will be some things that I'll offer up to assist with that whole implementation process, because you know what, the study is important and it's going to set the tone for where it's going to go. But if it's not implemented correctly, it'll go splat. I've seen so many things. I've received studies and reports over the years, and the report is still sitting on a shelf somewhere, collecting dust, and it never was opened after the night it was presented. Now, I hated getting those reports, so I make sure that I don't write those reports. Because if I can't provide a report that you can actually implement and execute the details of, then I'm not doing my job at all. And I've been in EMS for 40 years. I know how it works. I know how it ticks. I'm not going to recommend things that I know you can't do or I know are going to fail. I've just seen too many things that have failed. And make sure that we keep you out of those traps.
Are you suggesting where the stations would be located if we do go county?
Demographics?
Yes, yes. And I don't know that there'd be a dramatic change in that. I mean,
I'm sure it depends on southern Green.
Yeah. That certainly is a key piece. But I think it would be ideal with the right circumstances for the locations to be very similar to what they are now.
If we vote to go countywide, can Southern Green Lake County still stay on their own? They wouldn't have to join the countywide system, would they? I'm just asking.
Well, they wouldn't have to join it, but they would be being taxed for it. If the county were to
If that's the way
approve
they
it.
go.
If they were to approve
Yeah,
it.
if they were to approve it and they,
So the townships would be paying double because they'd be paying for the county system and.
Just like Aurora.
Yeah, I know.
I testified in a case about 6 years ago, I think it was, where that exact thing happened. And it turned out the way you might expect it. What else?
How much opportunity have you had to meet with all the individual towns or?
Again, he wasn't here
respective
from the beginning.
I
Yeah.
missed that, okay.
But I met with every county supervisor,
Okay.
one-on-one, for about half hour, 45 minutes each, back in June 3. When people were first starting to get comfortable again with doing things. Then I sent questionnaires to all the township, town chairmen and things like that, got virtually all those back. I've talked with South Green Lake County twice, had discussions with them. I've talked with Evan and Jody a couple of times. I've talked with Kathy and Harley. So I have what I feel is a good pulse of what people are thinking. You know, sometimes where there's a bigger population, I'll kind of just go hang out on the street corner someplace and just ask people, hey, what do you think of your EMS service? But here, especially this time of year, I got probably a 30% chance of getting a resident. For tourists. If I did that in Door County, I'd only have about a 10% chance of getting a resident. What else? So I think we've got a good feel for what people are thinking and what they're not thinking and what they don't like and what they do like. And, I met with the Princeton city administrator one-on-one in person. I try to do as many in person, but when you get to the townships and things like that, it gets hard to coordinate all of that. So that's why they got questionnaires. But they were sent back, they were very detailed in what they were thinking and what they want to see and what they don't want to see. So that was very valuable pieces of information. So I guess, I know you've got some training tonight, and I don't want to be here long, but, so I guess I would ask you some questions now about what are your real concerns? What do you want to see happen? And I'm not saying that it will happen, I'm just saying, if you were king or queen for the day, what would you like to see happen?
Countywide service?
Countywide service, okay?
As a volunteer that's been with the service for, how many years? 13? And there's only a few of us left. It's hard to run, to be away from home for $2 an hour.
I know.
And it's taxing on your family to be gone, and I love it. It's the reason I've stayed with Berlin Service. I've been told, why don't you go to Washera? That's where my husband runs. I said, no, thank you. When outlying services have bad comments to say, I said, I'm not gonna run for you if you're gonna sit here and bash another service, and I won't do it.
Mhm.
I stay. But it's hard to at that pay.
No, I understand.
And I think it would be beneficial to go countywide. Also coming from a township that we are split, half of our township is covered by Washera and half is covered by Berlin.
Mhm.
The township's really, the town's people, not necessarily the board and all that, they don't understand
No.
what coverage they're getting, what coverage they're not getting.
Typically, we are all poor consumers of healthcare, and EMS is part of healthcare, and we don't know what, everybody thinks when that vehicle pulls up that there's 16 paramedics that jump out of it, and, you know, they do all these kinds of magical things, but we all know that that's not the case. So yes, people really do not understand what happens.
I would hope if it went countywide as a service, we'd have more support for EMRs to have on the calls prior.
Mhm.
I know, especially in my township where we still have a long travel time, especially if by chance they're coming from down here.
Mhm.
It's a long travel time, and
Yep.
we don't have first responders up there because our township doesn't want to pay a service to come and be the first responders.
Mhm.
Think about your people. I would hope if you went countywide that maybe that would change their mind. Whether it would or wouldn't, I would hope as a person living in that township, you would hope it would.
You would hope it would, and I, you know, I'll have some stuff in the report about that. You know, it's not all that costly to establish an AMR group.
They just didn't want to pay it, so they dropped them.
Yeah, but I mean, it's literally not a ton of money.
I don't. They could switch to the other towns.
Sure.
But they want free.
Right, and, you know, that's the other thing, people need to understand that there is no such thing as free any longer in EMS. And people are shocked when I say this, but I always say it anyhow, is that, you know, EMS has the crisis right now from a personnel standpoint. Volunteer fire is right behind them. I said, about 2 years ago, I said probably about 6 to 8 years behind them. I don't think that's any longer the truth. 2 volunteer fire departments this year closed in Wisconsin.
Yep.
You know, you look at the average age on a fire department in some areas, it's probably 65 years old. mean, that's the average age. You might have a couple of young bucks, but you also have some 75, 80-year-olds on there still hanging on. So, this is a problem, and, you know, I've recommended in a couple of places, and I mean, part of my recommendation here is that maybe there needs to be a referendum, that either 0.5% or 1/4% or whatever, funds public safety. So fire gets some, EMS gets some, law enforcement gets some, and you can actually then finally get the people that you really need, because again, seasonal populations, you know, are really a problem. You guys witness it. You know, in Door County, and on a typical weekend, even with this COVID thing going on, we have about 250,000 people in the county. And there's no upstaff, well, I shouldn't say that, there's one crew that gets upstaffed from 10 in the morning till 10 at night. Otherwise, it's the same crew that runs all year round. So, and they about triple call volume in the summertime. Fall is the worst, absolutely the worst time, summer, because now we'll start to see 300+ thousand in the county in the fall, every weekend. So, how do you staff for those kinds of things without having some bucket of money someplace that you can draw from? And maybe that's something where people who are there causing you to be busier should pay some of the tote for the getting it done. So those are just some, you know, some things that we'll throw out as some ideas. You know, referendums are difficult. They're difficult to get on the ballot. They're difficult to, you know, are they binding? Are they advisory? Are they this or are they that? But it is a mechanism potentially for funding. And so every piece of funding mechanism that I can come up with, I'll be putting in the report and recommending. Somebody else can decide whether they want to take that battle on or not. We'll have it all there. Anything else?
We look at full-time and part-time positions, or just the full-time positions for those?
Well, the positions that we recommend will be full-time positions, except with potentially what I mentioned earlier. You know, if we say 10, we say 18, we say 20, whatever we say, it will be with, not all of those would be one body. Some of those positions with FTEs would be maybe 2 bodies, maybe 3 bodies, maybe 4 bodies, to fill those positions. Just some back, you know, I think you probably already know this, but to run 24-hour shifts with full-time people, it takes 6 people per truck. So that's the magic number. And that's kind of the typical schedule of work a day, have a day off, work a day, have a day off, work a day, have a day off, and then have 4 days off, or there's any number of other combinations of schedules that you can do. And when you're busier, you know, you work the whole 24 hours, so yeah, there's some days you don't get any sleep at all. That's what the day in the middle is supposed to be, is your sleep day. And then you get beat up the next time, and then you get, so that's why you need the 4 off at some point to really recover and get some time. Sadly, what a lot of people do is because EMS doesn't pay very well typically, they use those 4 days and go work someplace else. So they never really get caught up either. So one of the things I stressed right from the get-go is that whatever we do, it has to be a livable wage, has to have good benefits, so that people are not constantly going in and out the door. I see from, you know, we have quite a few people here tonight. We have some people who are less than 70. It's good. That means that that means that hopefully a lot of you are planning on hanging around, and you can fit into the system. I think we would have a lot of different opportunities and ways for you to fit into the system if you're interested.
I don't know if you had touched on this, but in the plan, is it also, so like right now, our full-time employees take on the burden of all of the office work and all of that. With your plan, is that gonna be an individual director who takes on that, or does your plan still include full-time employees taking on the extra burden? Because when you say, you know, you're on 12, or you're on 24, off 24, I know these guys when they're off 24, they're not off 24,
Yeah.
they're still doing their catch-up.
Right.
So is that part of the plan, having an absolute, office that's taking, personnel that takes care of all of that, and then your full-time employees are strictly doing EMS and
Yeah.
not?
Yeah, the plan would be, again, don't quote me on all of the numbers or the exact
Right,
positions.
no, I won't hold it to
But my plan
$1,000,
would
don't
be,
worry.
a director position that would not go on calls unless really forced at the end of the, we're 3 deep in now, we're still looking for people that, probably an assistant director that would go on call, be a regular shift person, administrative, personnel. Billing, I don't think it's smart right now, if you haven't billed previously, certainly the time to start is not when you're creating something new. Billers are very important from a financial standpoint, not only to get the claim and the bill out the door, but there's so many rules now.
With medical, just
Yeah.
up on that.
One of the things I also do is billing audits, and I'm working with several services now trying to get them out of trouble. Because Medicare doesn't have a heart.
Right,
If you have not billed something correctly,
and they'll change tomorrow, and you're gonna have done it wrong, so.
yeah, it's gotten better that way. The rules pretty much today are still the ones that are there tomorrow. But the incentives have changed. They've got people now, private businesses, that go out and do compliance audits for Medicare, and the incentive for their pay is the more they find, the more money they get. So clearly, they're gonna find stuff. And there's nobody in the world who, every compliance audit that I've done, I found at least 30 things. So we would probably recommend either to continue with the current billing system or maybe look at a different one or not. I don't know. It seems like they're doing a good job, so I don't know that there'd be any reason to change.
Got it, thank you.
Yes. Couple more minutes. Any last questions? They see these guys over here with the guns, they're tapping their toes.
I'm on overtime.
That's why you were going.
County employee then.
So my goal is, and I will, because, I'm an EMS person at heart and have done it for, like I said, 40+ years. My goal is to make sure that we provide a system that's workable, that you can all participate in, and we provide a good service to the community in a timely manner. Now, we can never staff for the extraordinary days. You just can't. That's what you have mutual aid for, that's what you have help from different things. That's why you ask people to wear pagers when they're off duty so they can be called back in, things like that. But there are certain things that you have a responsibility to staff at certain levels. And that's where we hope to put you, is to be, so that under a normal day, you can handle most everything that you have, but there will always be those days. And they might be 3-4 days in a row, and they will be there, but you can't staff, because there might be 40 days after that where you're perfectly fine managing everything you have. So that's my task, and my goal is to provide you with a template to get there. And I'm confident that I will have something that will work for you, and hopefully, not everybody will be happy with it, I know that for sure, but I think it's going to be what's best for the county and the people in it. And that's all, that's the whole idea of having somebody, I don't have any
The
vested
outside,
interest
yep.
in anything here, other than I want to make sure that you take good care of your people. Because that's all I've pretty much done for my whole career, was make sure we take good care of people, so. Any last parting shots? Things you want me to think about, consider?
I just wanna say thank you, cause it's been a lot of work, I'm sure, on your part, and coming, again, from being here for a while, it'd be nice to not see the revolving door. So far, the last set have been for a while, so thank you to you guys, but it's, for the last number of years, it's been a constant.
Yeah,
we're a stepping stone, and it'd be nice to be able to keep people.
And you know, you will, in some sense, you will always be that, but we're gonna try to make it so it's not because of the pay and the benefits. You'll always have people who say, you know, boy, I really wanna go someplace where I can
Right.
go 20 calls a day. Well, guess what? You'll be there about 2 years, and you'll be begging to work someplace else. Because I've been out of services like that. 20 calls a day is not fun. You go to Milwaukee, you know, places like that, they just beat the crap out of you and spit you out. About 2 years, you're done. So we're gonna try to, again, protect you from that as well, and hopefully give people a reason to wanna stay and be part of the service, that we build a good culture, we build a good environment for people, and we build a good structure that people wanna be here. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And
Thank you very much.
thank you for coming tonight and asking the questions. It was a good opportunity for me to hear what you have to say and for you to hear what I have to say. And like I said, a lot of what I've said tonight may change. Some of it drastically, some of it barely at all. But it is what it is tonight. And I'll go back to my hotel room and I'll probably change 3 things before I go to bed.
Well, I think we have it recorded, so.
I'll check with them and just say, hey,
Just want to let you know that 1,000 number is gonna be there forever.
That's right. That's right. I put the
Thank you.
qualifier.
Right.
Thanks again.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Thanks, Dan.
Yep, you bet.
You guys wanna take a break or you wanna
Yeah,
roll
thank
right
you.
into it?
I say go for it.
Go for it.
All right, Chad, it's up to you.
All right,
Everybody knows Chad, right?
we are gonna go fast. Who has seen this before? So we have a few that have not, all right? Just because I go fast doesn't mean we're gonna miss some. okay? So, most of you know me. I'm Chad Holder, from a detective with the Sheriff's Department, former SWAT commander. I just gave that up in April. Scott Cody, who you're gonna have for the second part of this, is gonna be the new SWAT commander, doing a great job so far. Bunch of training, education. I'm a Green Laker for life. I was born and raised here, graduated Green Lake High School, 27 kids.
You
So,
have 27 kids?
27 in my class. It was
Oh,
big-
in your
big-
class.
Big class.
Okay.
I don't know if you saw in there, I've been on the fire department for, coming up next spring will be 30 years. And I did do a stint in EMS as well. I was a nationally registered EMT basic, ran with Princeton for a little bit, not very long. But, so I did have all the training at one time. So we're gonna talk about active shooter stuff tonight and rescue task force, warm zone. The term warm zone has kind of dissipated and gone away. Originally, that's what everybody was calling it. And now rescue task force is really the catchphrase. They're both the same thing, and we're gonna talk about what they are, why we do them, for you guys. So, our original response for law enforcement was, back in the day, everybody would get there, they'd surround the place, and we'd wait for the SWAT team to come in and take care of it. And they'd have some night shift guys, you know, the knuckle draggers that were on the SWAT team, they just came and that's what they did, they took care of things, and all the other cops would stand around and you know, coffee and donuts and watch them do their thing. All right? Well, that was all fine and good until Columbine. When Columbine happened, nationally, law enforcement said, whoa, we can't do that anymore. If they're in there killing people, we're gonna have to stop that. So there was a national movement. What we did locally is we sent a couple of instructors up to NWTC to an active shooter instructor course. I was one of those guys, and we started teaching active shooter response to all of our guys. And what that consisted of was we were teaching our patrol guys to form up a 4-man team and go in and get the bad guy. So I went to this training, learned how to instruct it. We went back and we told our guys, okay, here's what we're gonna do. You guys, we're not gonna wait for the SWAT team. You guys are gonna go in and you're gonna go in and get the bad guy. And we had a lot of pushback. There was cops that were like, no, that's not what I do. I write tickets. I'm not one of those SWAT guys. I don't go in and do that. And we said, no, yeah, you're kind of gonna do that now. And there was some pushback, and there was a lot of guys that didn't like it. But through the years of doing the training over and over again, they got the picture and they got used to doing it. And as these active shooter incidents increased in volume and scope, now they're like, oh yeah, now I see why we're doing this. And so Columbine was the first big change. So here's what the traditional diamond formation looks like, and that's what we taught our guys. Okay, one in the front, one in the back, one on each side, and you move direct to threat. The term for us, direct to threat, is a big deal. Okay? As long as that person is pulling the trigger on that weapon, people are going to die. So what we have to do is stop that from happening. And to do that, we have to go directly to the sound of that gunfire and make it stop. That's what we train our guys to do. It's really hard for us because in order to do that, we are going right by people that need help. And believe it or not, we're in this job to help people. That's what we do. And when you see people lying there bleeding and calling for help and hanging on to you and you're gonna go right by them, that's really, really tough. So that was part of the training that we did, is training these guys that, hey, mentally, you're gonna have to do this. So that's the diamond formation that came about after Columbine. So we did that for a long time. It was all good. And then Sandy Hook happened. And what happened with Sandy Hook is, so the diamond formation with 4 people, okay, that's what we trained our guys, 4 people. You know how long it takes for us to get 4 people sometimes? It's a long time, you know? It's just like you guys getting, you know, more than 1 crew at a time, all right? So that's what happened at Sandy Hook. These guys did exactly like they were trained. 2 guys got there, they're waiting for the rest of their team to get there, and inside, that guy just keeps killing kids. Okay? So there was another big reboot, nationally. National reboot. Okay, we gotta change this. So we went to training again, update training, and I came back to our guys, and this time I gave them all breaching tools. I'm like, here, you guys, here's some toys, play with these. And oh, by the way, yeah, we're not doing that diamond thing anymore. Now when you get there, just go in and get them. Just go in. Here's a toy, you can break the door, but go get them. By yourself if you have to. And we were prepared for a little pushback again, and there was none. Because everybody gets it. Nobody wants to be the guy sitting by that door waiting for somebody to show up when people are inside dying. So now we still train the diamond formation, because if you got 4 guys, great, we're gonna do that. But the reality is, it's gonna be 1 or 2. You know, if it's a day shift and we're having a meeting in Berlin, you might get 4, 5, 6 guys, that'd be great. But the reality is it's gonna be 1 or 2. And they're trained to go direct to threat by themselves. If you got a partner, great, but by themselves if you have to. So what's changed for EMS? What's the first step when you arrive on scene for EMS? First step. Scene safety. Scene safety. We used to bite BSI. That's how old I am. BSI, body substance isolation, right? That was it. Scene safety. That was it. And for that reason, EMS was not on these scenes. Because it's not safe, right? Well, that started changing, especially after this incident. The Aurora, Colorado shooting. There were 82 patients. 12 of them were deceased, 70 of them were injured, 58 of those had gunshot wounds. That's a lot of people all at once. Do you know how almost all of those patients, all those 70 patients, do you know how almost all of them got to the hospital? In the back of squad cars. Because scene wasn't safe, so the ambulances waited to get there. And then after they waited, the flood of the squad cars coming in and all the people leaving the theater, the traffic was stopped. They couldn't get an ambulance into the scene. Okay? This started changing things nationally. EMS started going, maybe we gotta do things a little bit different. Then there was the Pulse Nice Club shooting. I was fortunate enough to sit down on a debrief with the SWAT team that went in and cleared this. Okay, some of the officers that were first in saw a debrief of them. They did 2 hours on this. Horrific, the things they saw and did. One of the things that really bothered them, 1 block over across the street is a fire station. Hey, we need help. Nope, not safe, we're not coming out. That was a big issue, okay? And I'm not saying it's that way all over the place. We all know that it's not. But they were literally ankle deep in blood with people bleeding out, and they couldn't get any EMS help. So this was another one that really started to change the narrative with EMS. So what is Rescue Task Force? Very simply, Rescue Task Force is putting together a team of armed officers with EMS, fire, essentially whoever we can get, to go in and start moving those patients out, all right? Hot zone. They use this for hazmat as well as with active shooter. The hot zone, that's the unsecured area where the threat remains active. That's where somebody is shooting, okay? The cold zone is someplace outside where we don't have to worry about anything. We're safe from whatever's going on in there. But in between there, there's a little bit of an area, warm zone. So we're in that buffer area. So here's a map, big building. I know it's really small printing, you don't have to worry about that. If the reported shooter is down in that section of the building, can we go up by door 15 and move people out? That's what the warm zone is, okay? We still do it armed, so if something changes, you still got the safety of the guys with you. But we're doing that, we're hopefully doing it in a safer place, not right where the bad guy is, okay? We know a lot of these scenes go very, very quickly. A lot of them are over before we get there. That's another part of warm zone. I always gotta put this in, because I've taught this for more than just you guys, all right? I've taught this up in Waushara County, I've taught it at Fox Valley Tech, taught it all over the place. Follow your agency policy and procedure. I don't know what they say. Make sure you follow them. And follow your local law enforcement response guidelines. You guys work with us all the time. If you have questions about how things work, ask them. And if they don't know, they'll find you the person that does know. Okay? Ask them what the procedure is and what they've been trained on and how they've been trained. At one time, we did this training with all EMS in the county. It was Green Lake, Berlin, Marquezan, Princeton, and then we did it with every fire department in the county. Okay? So at one time, everybody had this. That was a few years ago. So, law enforcement, we're going direct to threat because we gotta stop the killing. All right? Rescue Task Force, we're gonna stop the dying. The people that are lying there dying, that's